Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a real homeowner's nightmare. We're talking about what happens when water gets into your home and why, from that very first moment, every single second counts.
So just picture it for a second. You walk in the door, and there it is, water, spreading across your floor. The first feeling is just, pure panic. But after that initial shock, what's actually going on inside your walls and under your floors, and what are you supposed to do next?
Because believe me, from the second that water shows up, a clock starts ticking. You're in a race against absorption, against damage to the structure of your home, and against a much bigger problem that's just waiting for its chance to appear.
All right, so let's start right at the beginning, that moment the disaster strikes. And it's usually not something huge and dramatic like a flood from a storm. It's often something much, much simpler.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's not some epic event that starts this whole mess. It's something totally mundane. A pipe under the kitchen sink finally gives out, the washing machine overflows, or you've got a slow leak from the water heater you never noticed. That's usually where the catastrophe begins.
And here's the thing about water. It is absolutely relentless. It doesn't just sit there in a puddle. Oh no, it goes on a mission. It seeps right under the baseboards, it soaks into the paper on the back of your drywall, and it completely saturates the insulation hiding inside your walls. All these places you can't even see.
And with every single minute that ticks by, that water is getting deeper and deeper into the bones of your house. What could have been a pretty straightforward cleanup job is quickly turning into a massive, complex project. The cost, the time, the headache, it's all going up by the second.
But honestly, the water itself, that's just the opening act. The real villain in this story shows up a little bit later, and that's exactly why every single minute is so critical.
This number right here, this is your golden window. In most homes, you've got about 24 to 48 hours before all that moisture starts to wake up dormant mold spores. And once you cross that line, you're not just fighting water damage anymore. Now you have a potential mold problem on your hands, and that's a whole different ballgame.
And listen, that 48-hour window, it's not a guarantee. Where you live can shrink it, like dramatically. Let's take a place like Winter Springs, Florida. You've got tons of rain, it's super humid, and the soil holds onto moisture. It's basically the perfect incubator for mold. In a place like that 24-hour mark becomes a non-negotiable deadline.
This is what the pros call secondary damage. And it's a huge deal. It's not the problems from the initial water, but from the moisture that got left behind. We're talking mold for sure, but also wood rot that can actually weaken your home's frame, and just the general breakdown of your building materials. This is the real long-term enemy.
So you've got the clock ticking down, the threat of all this secondary damage is getting closer, so how do the professionals step in and turn this total chaos into a controlled scientific process? Well, it all starts with speed. The gold standard for a real emergency response team is to be on your doorstep, ready to go within an hour of your call. Why? Because they know that what happens in that first hour can literally determine how much of your home can be saved versus how much has to be torn out. And when they get there, they have a methodical battle plan. They don't just grab them up. First, they assess, using tools like thermal cameras to literally see water hidden behind your walls. Then comes the extraction, with powerful pumps to get all that standing water out fast. And only then do they bring in the heavy-duty equipment to actually start the drying process. And none of this is guesswork. The best professionals are certified by organizations like the IICRC. That certification is basically your guarantee that they're following a strict science-based playbook for everything they do. It's what separates a real pro from, a guy with a fan and a shop vac. And it's absolutely crucial for your insurance claim.
Okay, so let's get into this a little deeper, because getting rid of the water you can see, that's the easy part. The real science is in getting rid of the water that you can't see.
So the very first thing a pro does is figure out what kind of water they're dealing with. This is so important. Category 1 is clean water, like from a burst water pipe. But if that water ran through a dishwasher first, it picks up contaminants and becomes Category 2 gray water. And if it's from a toilet backup or a flood, that's Category 3 black water, and it's seriously hazardous. The category changes the entire game plan for safety and cleanup.
And this right here really shows the difference between trying to do it yourself and calling a pro. A shop vac just gets the surface water, right? It leaves all that moisture trapped deep inside the drywall and the wood. The professionals, they basically create a scientific drying chamber in your house. They use massive dehumidifiers to make the air incredibly dry, then use powerful air movers to blow that dry air across wet surfaces. This forces the hidden moisture to evaporate out of the materials so it can be captured and removed.
And look, this isn't something that happens overnight. A real,
proper structural drying job takes time. After they get the standing water out on day 1, that equipment is going to be running for several days straight. Technicians will come back every day to take readings, checking the moisture levels, and adjusting things until every single wet material is back to where it should be. If you rush this part, you get mold. It's that simple.
Now, only after every test comes back showing the structure is scientifically, verifiably dry, only then can the final, and let's be honest, the most rewarding part begin, actually putting your home back together.
This is the reconstruction phase. For some, it might just be replacing some drywall and baseboards. For others, it could be rebuilding an entire kitchen from scratch. The whole goal is to get your property back to exactly how it was before the loss, perfectly matching the paint, the textures, everything.
And here's a part of the service people don't always think about: dealing with the insurance claim. A good restoration company is documenting everything. We're talking photos, moisture logs, super detailed estimates, so they can hand the insurance adjuster a complete package. It just makes the whole process faster and way less stressful for you.
And all of this brings us to one final thought. We've seen the chaos, we've seen the timeline, we've seen the science behind it all. So knowing what you know now, the real question is this: are you prepared? What are the small things you could do today, like checking those old appliance hoses, or just making sure you know where your main water shutoff is, to hopefully avoid ever having to start this race against the clock in the first place?